All right, we are live. Oh, that mic is hot, 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 hot. Oh, let's change that. Okay, let's just put the gain down a little bit. It's looking better right there. How's that? How's everybody doing? It's Monday. We're back as normal with our Ask Him. We had a little random Ask Jim live stream that we did on, what was that, Saturday night? Yeah, Saturday night. And also, I hope you guys should stick around because I am doing something new that we'll be doing on the Ask Tims, but I'm not going to spoil the surprise. So we'll save that for the end. So as you guys know, some of you may be new. If you guys are, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. You guys obviously keep showing up to this show for some reason. I mean, I guess it's cheap entertainment. So. Yeah, Jim got home safe. He made it there in one piece, to and from. Yeah. So, anyways, these streams are just an open chat where you guys can post questions about 3D printing. It doesn't have to be about our products. It doesn't have to be about stuff we sell. You can just ask questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. I don't have anything too exciting. I did tease on the Saturday night stream. We do have a CR30 in-house now, so we will be scheduling a stream for later this week on that one. And I'm going to be doing some more printer work, so you guys won't see too many streams this week other than the CR30 and the Ask Tims, because I'm going to be doing a lot of work on the back end. I'm trying to get all the printers from Unified 1 that we're going to continue to support with Unified 2 moved over to Unified 2. If you guys have been following, we did release firmware for the Soval SVO1. We have a firmware now for the Sunlu S8 that has the new board. So if you have an S8, some of them are shipping with these boards that have SH underscore 2560 underscore A4988 on them. There's a separate option in the Sunlu S8 config to use that board. So that's all fully supported and working. And I got to pull up my chat here. He was talking to me on MeWe. What was his name? Matt McLean. I want to give a shout out to him because he's the one that not only told me that these different boards were shipping in these, but he also tested the firmware and gave me information that was needed to get the firmware support on there. So it's all good. He's verified it on his machine with that board, so that's all supported. But yeah, the Soval SVL1, the AlphaWise U10. I feel like I'm missing one. Or maybe I'm just. It's been a blur. It's hard keeping up with everything going on here. Yeah, so those are on the site. The SVO1, the new S8 firmware that supports that different board that they've been known to ship with, and then the AlphaWise U10. So those are all live on the site. And like I said, the I don't know why it flagged your message for some reason. Gunny McGunsmith. But I allowed it. So it didn't show on chat though because it got flagged. Womp womp. But anyways, yeah. So there's some new firmware releases. If you guys do follow our news site on our if we do follow our news on our website, we do post automatically to our site when we release an update. I actually have a automation that when I do a new GitHub release, it actually automatically sends everything out. And it goes to our website first, and then within an hour, it'll go out to all of our other social media accounts, that kind of stuff. But we do also have an RSS feed if you guys want to subscribe with RSS. And then I do cross-post to our MeWe page, and then we also have a Telegram channel too as well. I myself have been using Telegram for about 3 years now, and I honestly just started scratching the surface with it and realized, hey, they have channels. So we post out everywhere that you want to subscribe to. So whether you're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, MeWe, we're everywhere. So try to keep everybody up to date. So, oh yeah, wire colors. Randall, I don't know if you're one of the guys in Discord. We did post a new article in our help center about the Creality BL Touch wiring harness. One of the guys in Discord sent me a picture of the rear of his BL Touch with that shown, so I put another diagram up there. We have one for Big Tree Tech's harness. But if you guys are doing a BL Touch, it seems like these Chinese companies that are making the wiring harnesses and kits that use those, they seem to like use whatever colors they have sometimes. There's some consistency, but also there's not. So the best thing to do is compare the actual pinout of the plug to where then it's going to connect on the board, because the pinout on the sensor itself will not change. And I'll show you what I mean by that. Let me pull up a picture here just so everybody knows, because the colors really don't matter. Where the wires go on the pins for the actual sensor matter. I'm trying to find here. Wiring harness colors. There we go. So just to show you guys what I mean, you can see here. So if you're not sure, like if yours doesn't match the colors that, you know, we have shown on here, this is what Big Tree Tech likes to use, and it could vary, but what you want to basically look at is the pin order to determine what the normal color would be if you have non-standard colors. So on the left here, this is the Ant Labs official one, because they actually use servo color coding, which is the standard, but these Chinese companies are making their own harnesses for the sensors, and it could be anything. I have seen that most of the Big Tree Tech ones look like this, but it really depends. They could change anything at any moment. You guys know how it works with the Chinese companies. They just do revisions and there's no notice. But, you know, from left to right, this is what the standard one is. So if you can determine this, you can then determine your wiring, because this is your ground, your 5-volt, and this is your BL Touch signal to control the pin. And then you've got ground and then the signal for the end stop. So these two wires, these last two pins here are your end stop. Your first three are the ground, 5-volt, and signal, or 3.3, depending on what you're connecting it to. So, but yeah, you just got to make sure that you're wiring these up correctly, and it's not helping that these companies are changing these standard wire harnesses. This is what they've been for years. I don't know why they suddenly decided to change them. The Creality one, which is the new one I just published, you can see here, I posted this yesterday. Theirs is a little more on point to what the original one is, but you can see here, instead of a brown wire, they have a blue. But, you know, if you're not privy to this, you know, you could be lost or confused trying to get all this stuff hooked up. You know, but the main thing is the order of the pins they connect to, because no matter what these colors are, you know, this is always your ground, this is always your 3.3 or 5-volt, this is always your signal, this is always a ground as well. And if you notice, they're actually tied together on the PCB. So you got the two ground wires, and then you got the signal. Now the problem is, if you reverse these two over here, which some people have, and then you plug it into your board, because these two ground wires are connected, you can actually short out your board's 3.3 or 5-volt rail, which could damage your board. So it's kind of important that you get those correct. You know, the BL Touch is 5 wires. You don't have to worry about this kind of stuff with our Easy ABL, because we just connect right to the end stop and give you wire to connect directly to your power supply for the power. But if you're connecting to BL Touch, make sure you get your wiring order right, because you can short out your boards and cause damage to them. So, but yeah, let's get, there's enough of our, you guys know how this goes. It's there's a little tangent in the beginning, and then we get into the questions here. So let's see here. What do we have? Looks like Derek is the first one. Derek is asking, when assembling a tough extruder with the tough all metal hot end, do I need to put a PTFE tube connecting both inside the white chamfer adapter of the tough extruder? Yes, you should cut a piece of PTFE. You're not going to put the fitting in, the PTFE fitting, but you're going to want to put a piece of PTFE, the length from that white adapter all the way to where it stops in the hot end. So usually what I'll do is I'll take a piece of PTFE, I'll shove it down into the hot end. I might have one of our hot ends here. Let me see. Yes, I do. And I have a tough extruder, so hang on. So it's pretty simple. So what he's asking about is how you do a direct drive assembly. Yes, I do have one. I don't know if I have the guide in here. This is my random parts here. I do have a guide. Okay. So let me switch this camera on here. Just gonna move all my crap out of the way. Too much crap. Let's see. Let's see. How are we looking here? Oh, man. Oh, that... Ooh, I'm a ghost. Ooh. Nope, just a dirty lens. Let's fix that really quick. Voila! No more ghost Tim. All right, so now this is all like assembled here. So, but the main thing you want to do, you have the body, you have the little fitting here. Okay, so this usually goes like this when this is all assembled, and then you can put this in here, and it's a collar, and you just press that in. And then the thing is, your filament feeds this way. So you want to take a piece of PTFE and put it into here until it stops, okay? And then we want to cut it right about where the top of this is. So hopefully this makes sense. Let me zoom in here. So you want this tube to go up into the top here. So this goes all the way in until it doesn't go anymore. And then we're going to cut this. So I'm going to just put my finger here. Cut that right about there. Let's see. So there we go. And then it goes in just like that. So you can see the tubing goes up in here. So yes, you do want to put a PTFE in here. It doesn't have to be the exact length. You can get it roughly there, but you can also cut it longer and then put the tube. So like, let me cut one too long intentionally. So I put that in there. Let's say I cut it like this. You can see there, I've got a gap. So I need to take that much off of this to get it to actually be the right length. So right about there looks good. Let's see. Look at that. Perfect. So, and then this all goes into this collar here. So that's what you do. It's as simple as that. How close did I get that on the other one? I got that pretty close. Look at that. Just eyeballing it. I got that pretty close, if I do say so myself. So, all right. But yes, you should. All right, let's see. Mike V. He was trying to get the SKR E3 turbo dual extruder with the wide after had someone write in the firmware, could never get to work. Kira wouldn't see the second one. If you're doing a 2-into-1 setup, you got to define your extruders as 2, and then there's an option in Marlin called single nozzle, I believe it's called. If memory serves correct, I can pull that up and see. But what single nozzle does is it tells it that even though you have 2 extruders, you only have a single nozzle, so it'll disable the second hot end output. Let me see. Yeah, it's called single nozzle. And that's in Marlin. So if we do a screen share here. So this is just a standard Marlin config. But yeah, it would be the single nozzle. So this will tell it, like, even if you put like, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever extruders, it'll still tell it that, okay, we only have 1 nozzle though, but we have this many extruders. Hopefully that makes sense. I just want to back out of that because that's one of my config files. I don't want to mess with that. But yeah, that's what you would do for a Y type setup. As much as I don't like Simplify 3D as a company, they do dual extrusion very well. That's like the one reason I'll keep using it for a while. I don't think I'm going to upgrade to the new version, but the current one does work really well with dual extrusion setups. Their wizards works really well. Like I used it on the CRX, which is a 2-into-1 setup, so 2 extruders, 1 hot end, and you know I was printing within like 15 minutes. So, but I can tell you that Cura is a pain, an absolute pain to do dual extrusion on. I haven't messed with any other slicers. Maybe there's other people that have any recommendations in chat here on dual extrusion friendly slicers that you know aren't gonna take you hours to set up. So let's see here. Tripod's Garage. Every time. He better have an adult frosty beverage. I do not have any adult frosty beverages today. It is only 2 o'clock on a Monday, okay? You trying to say something? Let's see here. All right. What will we be giving away? I don't know. Maybe there'll be a giveaway. Maybe there'll be something else. I don't know. You guys have to stick around and find out. Let's see here. Justin DeBell. I hope I said your last name right. People butcher mine all the time. For anybody wondering, my last name is pronounced Hoagland, like you a hoe. Like ho ho ho. It's Hoagland, not Hoogland. Just a FYI here. But Justin is asking, when a PID tune is done on the bed, does it send out pulses to keep it at temp? I noticed my MOSFET keeps blinking. Yes, that's what PID is. It's pulsing the heaters. It does the same thing on your hot end to keep it at temperature. So whereas if you're using the bang bang style, it checks a temp. It's very simple. It's, you know, like I said, check the temp. It's on our firmware. It's a half-second window. Okay, are we at temp? Yes. No, we don't need to heat. Oh, we're not at temp. Heat. Check another half second. Oh, we're at temp now. Okay, shut it off. Whereas PID, it's always regulating it. And unless it overshoots, it's basically always pulsing that signal on and off at a partial on-off interval to maintain that temperature. And it does it very fast. So you will see your MOSFETs for, you know, if your LED, if your board has LEDs by the MOSFET, some of them do, some of them don't. You'll see them, especially by the hot end, regulating very fast, or maybe it'll be so fast the light will just look dim. But the same thing happens with the bed too as well. So let's see here. Mark Dow says, I'm having a problem with my Sirtas Pro V2. After putting on the Hero 5 fan duct, my Z-axis is hitting the bed. Are you talking about like the what's the word I'm looking for? The gantry brackets, like they're kind of like slanted, the metal brackets. They're kind of like, they almost look like a triangle. They're like this, and then they come up like that, and then they have the wheels on them. If so, you might have printed the wrong one, because your nozzle might be actually too far up versus what you had on there before, the stock one, because the stock hot end is actually pretty long on the CR10S Pros. They're, I want to say they're about as long as like these V6 style ones, whereas the Creality one's a little bit more stubby, like the other Creality ones. But the CR10S Pro one's actually a much longer hot end than your other ones that you'll have. That's what I would check. I don't know if you change your hot end or not, but maybe you printed the wrong part. I haven't put a HeroMe on our CR10S Pro because actually on that printer, that's actually fairly decent stock cooling. Same thing for the CR10 V2. They actually came with a decent stock cooler, so I haven't messed with them. Max CJ says, adding a second Z-axis motor to the Ender 3 V2, thoughts? If you want something even simpler, we have our Ender 3 dual Z kits, and those work on the V2, and there's no extra motors. It's all mechanical. And one thing that does that adding a second motor doesn't do is that it keeps the gantry locked in. So you can't have it sagging because it's got a belt at the top to drive the other one, and also keeps it locked in. Dan Adams, the Solval with the stock board. Assuming that was when we were talking about the firmware. Yes, it does work with the stock board. And we do have the Easy board supported with the Solval SV01 as well. As long as you have the standard 12864 style screen, not their, I think they have a touch screen option. We don't support those because those are basically the same screens Creality are using, which are those closed source DWin ones. Yeah. So Gunny McGunsmith says, hey Tim, I've been having issues with my CR10 V2 I have zero clue how to deal with. Occasionally the Y-axis layer shifts. I replace the motor, tune the voltage, check the belt tightness, etc. Thoughts? You could be check to make sure that the board is not running too hot. Maybe back your VREF down a little bit, because those boards do have 2208s on them and they need to be cooled very well because Corelli does not, spend the extra money on the additional layers and copper, which those drivers need to stay cool. I would be more likely to guess it's probably an issue with the driver. Maybe it's running too hot because they do go into kind of a protection mode where they'll stop responding for a little bit to kind of cool down. That's one thing. Also, and I've talked about this before, is that if you guys are having layer shifts, make sure that it's not something as simple as there's a part on your print that's curling up and the nozzle's colliding with it, because that can also cause lost steps. And like it just doesn't, it's not something people think of right away. But just check and see what's happening when that occurs. Like watch it and see if there's a pattern, like it's happening at the same position every single time, or if it's erratic. It's either going to be something, could be the board's bad, even maybe your driver's failing, because those drivers will be running hotter than they should because of the way Creality has those board design. I haven't put enough time on ours to see any issues with it like that. I'm trying to see. I think we carry those boards still. Let's see here. I gotta go to our website. I know we had some. We kept a small stock of them, but I need to see. I don't know if we even have them still, because I have not reordered them in a while because we haven't sold that many of them. Let's see, CR10 V2. Yeah, no, we do not have those in stock right now. Tiny Machines would probably be a good place to see if they have it. But I would rule out all physical things. Your nozzle hitting the print during a print, and losing steps. Make sure that your belts, you said your belts are checked. Maybe they're too tight. A lot of people can over tighten them, and it can also put too much load on the motor shaft and cause it to stall out. And you might also have your VREF tuned too high, which is going to make the driver run hot. You want to keep those drivers cool on that board. Let's see here. Mac CJ says, did you see the work someone's done with turning the Ender 3 V2 screen from vertical to horizontal? I have not. I don't use that screen on my V2 anymore. I'm not a fan. I changed it out for the other one. Let's see here. Oh, there it goes. I was waiting for the chat. I was waiting for the chat to jump. And it jumped a lot. Oh, God. Okay. We're back to where we were. Randall B says, my BL Touch doesn't work, but it did with Marlin. Well, our firmware is Marlin. So, it's Marlin 2072 is what it's based on. So, question though, because I remember you talking about, are you connecting to the Z end stop for your Z, for the Z signal, or are you connecting to the 5-pin? Because the firmware is set up to use the 5-pin, just like the diagram that's in the firmware pack shows. I'm just reading chat here, so it looks like I'm kind of zoning out. I'm just reading through chat while I'm talking. Let's see. Time to Block. Last week, I bought a Sunlu S8 for $191. Yeah, that's a good price. I'm wondering if it can be updated with a Big Tree Tech SKR E3 Mini. You can put any board in any printer. It depends on if you're going to be able to do the firmware work and physically mount it. As far as I know, there's no boards that are a drop-in replacement for that. It doesn't follow the MKS standards. It doesn't follow the Creality standards. It's like their own design. So you would be having to hack up the case to make new holes for the ports and make an adapter bracket and then do all the wiring and do all the firmware. So if you're looking for just a swap it out type of thing, there's not one that exists that I know of right now. And like I said, the bolt holes for their board are different from all the other boards that are out there. It's a proprietary board that they had made for that printer. So, Llama, you got fancy purple tinted glasses? No, I've had these for a while. All my glasses have these coatings on here because I'm on the computer so much. Let's see here. What kind of bear is best? Bears beats Battlestar Galactica. Identity fraud is real. Let's see. Let me find other questions. Let's see here. Justin says, as you know, I'm building a custom Serotinus into a dual extrusion. I've been waiting on the Easy Board Pro. In the meantime, what board do you recommend I use, and do you support firmware for it? The only dual extrusion board we have that'll fit in a CR10 that we have firmware out for is the Creality dual extrusion one, which we should have. I know we just got some of those in recently. And I do have a tracking number for the prototype for the Pro EZ board. So hopefully once that gets in my hands, I'll be able to actually get it going, get it put through its paces, do some testing. But yeah, that's the only one we have right now that we have firmware for that does dual extrusion for like a Creality machine is the dual extrusion board here. And this is not just the board. This also includes the Creality wire harness, so you get actually a couple of stepper cables, but we buy this whole harness from them because it has the e-motor cable in it, and an actual matching Creality extruder motor. So this all comes with that. So this one is in Unified 2 as well as Unified 1, but you should be using 2 because this one does support Unified 2 now. But yeah, let's see here. All right, let's go back to chat here. Audio sucks on second cam. Yeah, I know. I'm too far from the microphone. It is what it is. John says, any chance of adding an SD card refresh in the Ender 5 Pro firmware? You can't. There's no SD detect pin that's available on that board. That's why you have to do a refresh. On some of the other boards, they have a pin that when, like, the pin's physically there, it's just not connected on those other boards. But like on the CR10S Pro, when you push it in, it actually closes the contact, which tells the firmware that a card was inserted, and then tries to mount it. That's not connected on those boards, so no, we can't do that. Let's see here. Yes, this is a Q&A. You just asked a question, so I guess I'm going to move on to the other ones, because you get one question per person. Just kidding. I have created my Ender 5 to the Pro soundboard. Now when I heat my bed, the LCD acts like it's being pressed. Yes, it's because Creality doesn't know how to design proper electrical interference mitigation on their boards. Our Easy board does not do that, but I understand people don't have $120 for an Easy board, so we have a little board that you can pop on your LCD. It's $8, and it will fix your problem. And you can get that in our shop right here. So there's even a video here. This happens on the Big Tree Tech boards, the Creality boards, the 422, 427, SKR E3 series, so the minis and the turbos. This is the issue that crops up. It doesn't do it with our board because we actually properly filtered the pins because we did see this happening. But all these boards are going to do it no matter if you get one from us, the 422, the 427, especially on the Ender 5. We did have our Ender 3 V2 do it with the LCD swap, but this fixes that issue, and you literally just plug it in right here onto the back of the LCD, and that's it. No firmware changes. It's a passive device that just fixes it, and it's that simple. So, and we build these here in-house. These are something I designed and we make here. So, $8 and that'll take care of your problems. I will tag you right here, Michael. Is it Wooters? Interesting last name. So, yeah, not all machines have this. It's very it's more likely to happen on the Ender 5s. I don't know why. Those machines just seem to be more prone to having electrical issues. And like, not issues, but interference. It's very common on the Ender 5s with the 422 and the 427 boards. It's not too common on the Ender 3s, but I have, like I said, I've seen it crop up a couple of times, and that little board just fixes it. So, let's see here. Yeah, and if you guys are ordering, like, we sell the 427 board, and that's an add-on on the board, and we do disclose that you might have this problem. So it's not like other places where they're not telling you that you could have this issue. We're upfront with it. Like, we know that it's a minor issue, but we're telling you that, hey, this could happen, so you should probably add this on. But yeah, that will filter all that stuff on there. So why are you taking my dog? Oh, okay. Apparently throwing the ball is more important than being a background ornament in the stream. But now I got completely thrown off. Yeah, anyways, you pop that on there, and it's one of those things where if you're going to order the board from us and you have an Ender 5, just get the add-on board and put it on there, because it's not going to hurt anything or do anything if you don't need it on your particular machine. So you can pop it on there even if you don't need it. It won't hurt anything. So, but you do not need those with the Easy Board. The Easy Board has its own filtering system on there for the LCD to get rid of that kind of issue. So, let's see. Adam Cadillac said, just checking, should I install solid bed mounts and the Easy Flex system, then install the Easy ABL? Doesn't matter. Do whatever order. I'm more experienced, so I'll do everything at one shot. But if you're a newer user, I don't recommend you guys doing a ton of upgrades at once. If you are a newer user, or you just want to take things a little bit slower, you don't want to rush in, maybe it's your first time, do one upgrade at a time. Don't just be like, I'm going to swap everything out on this brand new machine, or maybe a machine you've had for a couple weeks. I do recommend people use their machine stock for a month. If you're new, use your machine stock for a month. Suffer through it. Learn all the intricacies of all the little manual stuff. And get used to using the printer stock. Suffer through it a little bit. You'll definitely appreciate the upgrades later on more if you know what you would have had to been dealing with, if that makes sense. So yeah, learn, like Tripod says, learn your machine first before you start going crazy with upgrades. As much as I would love to sell you stuff, I think it's very important if you're a new user to learn the machine stock and get used to it, how it sits before you start messing with stuff. You'll also be a lot better versed if you do have issues then when you're doing the upgrades or after the upgrades to troubleshoot them. Whereas if you're still like new, you could be biting off more than you can chew. Let's see here. All right. Nicholas is asking, when's the live stream for the belt printer coming? I'm probably going to schedule that for Thursday. Towards the end of the week when things are a little less crazy. This will be a stream. I do have to wrap this up at 3 o'clock on the dot because I do have an appointment to get to after this. So I will be enforcing that 1 hour stream limit here today. Let's see here. Tommy is asking, have you seen the Quinley system for the Ender 3? Is that one that like puts it on an angle? Yeah, you want my honest opinion? I think it's a bad idea. I think it's like one of those things where if you want to do it for your personal machine, but the fact that somebody's selling that as a product, I don't think it's a very good idea. You're just asking for the printer to tip over. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Like, just because you should doesn't mean you, just because you can doesn't mean you should. That's just my opinion. I looked at it and I'm like, this is kind of jank. Yeah. So, and it wasn't that cheap. I do remember saying this. I was trying to find, let me see. Yeah, it's like $200 for a couple pieces of extrusion and some printed parts. Like, and then you're ramming your hot end into the parts to make them fly off the bed. I don't think that's a very good idea. You got your whole machine supported by some printed parts. Like, yeah, it's I don't like it. I wouldn't be putting it on here. You know, to be completely honest, once you get a flex plate on your printer, it's not that much to just restart the print. Like, we flex off, like we sat down and did some, you know, quick math on if belt printers would help us speed up production here, and it actually wouldn't, because in order to take advantage of a belt printer, you got to do one part at a time, and it ends up being slower than us just printing a full plate of parts, clear it off, and restart the job. I do think belt printers have their place for, especially if you got stuff that needs that infinite Z axis. But in terms of production, I don't think they would actually speed up our production here. And same thing like that. Like, that's just asking for more trouble down the road. I don't like the idea of ramming my hot end to remove parts off the bed, because that's basically what it's doing. Let's see here. Hankus says, what is the process to save the Z offset and ABL data on the Ender 6? I'm not sure. We don't have an ABL on ours. So I don't have any input on that. I don't know if, I think someone said they released a BL Touch enabled firmware for it. But I'm assuming then you probably also have to update the LCD, because the LCD runs its own separate firmware. If you look on the back of the LCD, it has its own SD card. Justin's last name is pronounced Dybel. Okay, I'll try to remember. That makes sense. All right, let's see here. Looking for more. Looking for more stuff. Dave, I have not contacted our supplier yet about the Easy Flexes. I need to post a feeler out to see if there's actually enough interest, versus us running off 100 plus of them and then us getting stuck with them. Oh, Jim's going back to work. Yeah, you should probably get back to work, Jim. That'd be helpful. Mike V says, I have another issue. When one job stops printing, I start another job a day later, fire up the printer, start job with Octoprint. X and Y motors go crazy until I reset the printer Octoprint. What kind of printer is that? And I'll come back to you. Give me some more information. Board, printer, firmware, that kind of stuff. Clayton is asking for feedback on the S8. I think the S8's a good buy if you can get it around the $200 range. Just do know that you're probably going to have to change out the hot end cooling assembly, like the layer fan setup, because the stock one's terrible. That was my main complaint with that, is the layer cooling is inadequate. But to be completely honest, everything else seems very good, especially for the price. Once you factor the price in, like, it's solid. Let's see here. JJ Miller, what connectors do you recommend when moving your PSU off the gantry? I'm building an enclosure right now and don't want the power supply in the enclosure itself. I highly recommend moving it out. Honestly, we just take like those same 1 meter wire sets. We just do that and run a continuous wire. And if we need to disconnect the printer from the power supply, we just undo the screw terminals at the power supply side and then disconnect them that way. But if you absolutely need or want to have a connector, get some good quality XT60s or even XT90s. XT90s would be overkill, but you know what? It's not going to hurt to go overkill on your main power wires. But like actual good quality XT60s will be fine. I would probably do XT90s. If you're going to have to go buy connectors, the XT90s are usually only a little bit more. I'd probably just go to the XT90s. They're big, they're beefier, and then you don't have to worry about it. Victor, does Unified firmware support the Big Tree Tech board 1.4 turbo? No. That's a universal board. That one's really hard to do firmware for. And if you're using a Big Tree Tech SKR board or even like an MKS SGNL board, you need to take the time and learn Marlin and set it up. Because those are universal boards and you should become familiar with all the settings. So that way, if you do have an issue, you know how to troubleshoot it. So, Nick says that a clock in the background looks like a spool clock. No, that is a clock. It's an RGB clock that my brother got me, but I reset the power strip and it's only in red mode right now. Let's see here. Oh God, there we go. Chat jumped again. Chat jumped again. All right, hang on. We're going back up. I'm trying to find where I was at. We were talking about the clock. Nick, okay, there we go. Let's see here. 3 Printed Pennies says he's got a friend he's a BL Touch on a friend's Siriton S5 with SKR 13 and a TFT 35. G28 homes to center fine, but G29 goes to front left and sits there. BL Touch is off the bed, but nozzle probes to Z offset. I'm not sure what you mean. But I have seen that bug happening with Marlin, and it was on a CR20. It was a CR20, so I think it's some sort of Marlin glitch, and I haven't been able to replicate it. I don't know if anybody else has seen that, but I would probably pull a fresh copy of the firmware and reset it up, because I feel like that was the same thing. Basically, your G28 would do the X, Y, and they would home to center, and then when it start to go to probe, it would just go to the front left and act like it was homing normally with an end stop. Could also be a firmware setting too, but I feel like that is a potential bug in Marlin. I just haven't had time to sit down and test it out myself to see if I can even replicate it. But I have seen it on a different board that was with a Creality board. Let's see here. I was waiting for Mike V to give more info. Okay, I'm just trying to see who I need to look out for that has already asked a question that I'm waiting for more info on. Let's see. So 219 drones, a drone guy. Nice. Wait, 219. Are you in Indiana? Or is that just a random number? 219 is Indiana area code. Is it? Yeah, 219. I just installed a Copperhead Bondtech DDX on my Ender 5 Pro. I cannot get the heat block to reach temp. I changed my settings in unified firmware, adjusted my PID. Any thoughts? How many watts is the heater? Is it like it's just not, like if you tell it to go to like 260, does it just kind of stall out? And if it stalls out, what does it stall out at? And what heater are you using too? Is it a 30 watt? Is it a 40 watt? Is it a 50 watt? That kind of stuff. Am I going to get, Dark Claw is asking, am I going to get the CR200? I have not heard of that one. Let me see. They have yet another printer. Is that a Creality one? Let's see. CR200. Oh yeah, let's see. CR200B, fully enclosed, 200 by 200 print size. It's a pre-order. Oh, it was a pre-order back in Thanksgiving? Interesting. Probably not. That doesn't really appeal to me. It almost looks like a toy. That's this one here. It almost looks like a toy. Like, that's weird. It's really weird. Like, yeah, probably, honestly, probably not. It's probably why I hadn't heard of it either. The BQ DOS is asking, what are your thoughts on the BQ-H2? Is that the one that uses the HDMI, or is that the USB-C one? Oh no, that's an extruder. Oh, that's their Hemera knockoff. That's huge. Yeah, and they're asking $76 for that. If you want a direct drive extruder, just buy a Hemera. That thing is way bigger than the Hemera, and I guarantee it's not made as well. If you're looking for a direct drive system, I would highly recommend going with the Hemera over that. Yeah, the H2 is their like Hemera copy, except worse. I would highly recommend just going with the Hemera. It's only a little bit more. I think Hemera is right around $100, somewhere around there. It is definitely not smaller than the Hemera. I've seen them side by side, and they're way longer. I'm looking at the picture right now. I can tell you they're way longer because they're using a pancake stepper. The Hemera actually uses a larger motor, but they have a lot more. Like their gearing, is not as like small as the Hemera. But yeah, you can see. I'll screen share here. Main monitor. So you can see here, like they have this big gearbox here with this giant gear. And then they do have the dual drive. I mean, I'm sure it'll work. I would just, if you're going to drop that much money on an extruder, I'd rather just go with the E3D one. Like, I'm not even a huge E3D fan, but if I'm going to spend like $80 on a direct hot end setup like this, I would rather just go with the E3D one because their quality, I guarantee, is going to be way better than Big Tree Tech. And we know how great Big Tree Tech is with their warranties and service. So that's just my opinion. I haven't tried it, but if, you know, I've had a Hemera, I haven't used it, but I had one. I ended up selling because I ended up not needing it. But the quality on it, on all the machining, everything, and the tolerances were excellent, absolutely excellent. So if you're right around the same ballpark price, why even bother buying the Chinese one when you can get an E3D for just a little bit more? OCD FPV is asking about how's your firmware, or talk about the firmware with SVO1. I have the silent board. How's your firmware with it? It works fine. It supports the silent board as well as the stock board. So it's just different features. We change menus around so they're a little easier to navigate. Things are a little easier to understand. There's a lot of settings that are turned on by default, like baby stepping and just things that are tuned a little bit better than versus stock Marlin. But yeah, that's just flash it and try it. You can always go back to the stock firmware. I believe Soval has a stock firmware for their board on their site, so you can just update it over USB. If you don't like it, you can always go back. But basically, our firmware is Marlin. It's just simplified configuration. So when you're telling it what machine you have by uncommenting that line, that's just going and doing a bunch of settings on the back end that you would normally have to do manually, which would require you to know what those settings should be. But because we have because we actually have the machines and we've tested them on the machines, we've been able to get the correct values that actually work on them. Versus if you start with like standard Marlin, you have to enter those values in. And sometimes you can find example configs from other people or even in their config examples to kind of get you a head start. But the unified firmware is Marlin. It's just a simplified version of it. Juan is saying the TH3D Marlin firmware is causing my temps to go crazy and shows gibberish on my CR10S. That's not the firmware. You have a problem with your printer. If you're showing gibberish on the LCD screen and your temperatures are going crazy, it sounds like you have an electrical issue on that printer. The firmware has no ability to do that. You could also have a defective board or even a bad power supply, but that's not going to be the firmware. Let's see here. Someone asking about another thing. Have I seen the Rotbox extrusion system? Never even heard of it. It's an interesting name. I'm Googling it right now. Let's see what this is. Oh, is this like... I'm trying to see what this is. God, this site has so many pop-ups on it. What is this? The Rotbox. Is it rotates it? Is that what it does? It looks like, is it basically 5D? Because you can see here, the layers change here. Yeah, it can rotate in a circular path. That's interesting. Oh, yeah, look at that. Yeah, so what is that? Non-planar? Is that the correct term? Would be non-planar? That's kind of what I was looking at when I saw that. That's interesting. I wonder if they're using a servo or if they're using a stepper motor on there. Or maybe a tiny stepper. I don't want to hear you talk. I want to see it print. I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, if you had an application that needs parts that could benefit from that additional access, that's awesome. Oh yeah, here, I should show this. This is a good use case. You see here, parts that can be printed conventionally that need support versus ones that are printed with this. So you can get away with stuff not needing supports. That's a neat idea. I like that. That's some actual, like, new tech coming to this. And obviously you can retrofit it to your other machines. I think non-planar would be the correct word. Let's see here. Justin, oh, we were talking about the dual extrusion board. So the dual extrusion board we sell, that's got the A4988 drivers on it, so you can run linear advance. It's not the silent drivers, but they are actually very reliable. Creality's boards that they came out with, like their 8-bit ones with the A4988s and the 2560s with the 4988s, those boards were actually pretty reliable boards. The issues that people started having is when they started slapping the Trinamic drivers on these boards that were designed for the 4988s, which have a much lower heat output. And so you're taking a chip that's got more heat output that needs a board with 4 layers with heavy copper count on each layers, and putting onto a board that doesn't have those layers and doesn't have that copper count, because you got to remember the PCB is a heatsink. Just because you slap heatsinks on top of the plastic chip package doesn't mean you're going to actually effectively cool the driver, because I don't know if you guys know, but plastic is not a very good conductor of heat. It's more of an insulator if you think about it. And stepper drivers sink their heat through the bottom of the chip. So putting a heatsink on top does remove some heat, but it's not how the chips were designed to be cooled. That's why having a board with high copper count, like our Easy board, we have 4 layers, and each layer is 2-ounce copper. Whereas on the Creality boards, there are 2 layers and 1 ounce of copper on each layer. Now, there are some other companies, like some of the Big Tree Tech boards, they have 2-ounce copper boards. And while that's technically true, what they're not telling you is that there are 4 layers, but only the outer layers are 2-ounce copper. So you have 2-ounce, half, 2-ounce. And that's usually the standard when you specify a 4-layer board or higher. You usually get the higher copper count on the top and the bottom layers. But if you want more copper count on the inner layers, that's now technically a custom specification, which costs more money. So that's just something I want to note. So when you have Creality putting these drivers that run much hotter than the 4988s on boards that were not thermally designed for that, you end up getting drivers that, while they work, they have a shorter lifespan because they're running too hot. So... But the Creality boards of the 4988s, or the HR40 or the A4988 Allegro chips, or the HR4988s or the 4982s, you probably aren't going to have issues with those, because those don't put out as much heat as the Trinamics. You got to remember that Trinamics basically have a processor inside that driver to do that step interpolation, because that's how you get the quieter movement. Is it's taking that 1/16 stepping signal and it's taking it and upscaling it. You guys ever dealt with, like, you know, remember when 4K was still the new thing? You would have upscalers to go from 1080p to 4K. You know, it's not actually giving you more resolution, but it's doing an upscaling so it looks a little bit better when you go to a 4K resolution. It's the same thing that Trinamics do. So there's a processor in there that's handling that change to upscale the 1/16 stepping signal to 1/256, so it's a little bit finer of a motion, which then also cuts the noise down. So that's why they run hotter. They're actually doing some processing on the chip, whereas the other ones, they're very dumb. You know, they just step at whatever step rate you have it set to, and that's it. It's not having to think about it, really. It just follows the commands from the... it follows the commands it's given to by the processor. Let's see here. Strat Magic says, my CRSX just lost power today, 5 minutes into warming up, not the fuse. I'm going to answer 2 more questions after this, because I just realized it's almost 3 o'clock. So I apologize if I'm not going to get to everybody's questions today, but we will have another one on Wednesday, and I do need to do an announcement today before we wrap this up. So anyways, Strat Magic said, my CR6 just lost power today into warming up, not the fuse. Second, my Ender 3 V2 with the Microsys hot end direct drive for PETG prints very rough parts. So the CR6, open that up and check your board. Those control boards have been known to actually blow out, sometimes violently. Like, there's people that have reported where there's like flame shot out of the bottom of the board. It charred the inside housing. Other people where they just stopped working. They're not very reliable boards. I haven't been running my CR6 at all because I'm actually worried about that board causing an issue because I don't want to deal with a fire or smoke and stuff in my office or our shop. But I would check the board and check the power supply, take a multimeter, and see if you're getting 24 volts on the output of the power supply. And be very careful because obviously you have to have it plugged in and there's live mains voltage. So if you're not comfortable doing it, find somebody that is and knowledgeable. But check to make sure, start with the basics. Check to make sure that you're getting your wall power, whether, depending on where you're at. If you're in the US or Canada, it's going to be like 110 to 120 volts coming from the wall to the AC terminals on the power supply. And then on the output for that one, I believe that's a 24 volt machine. So you should have 24 volts DC output. And then just kind of like go from there. But those printers are known to have board issues. As for your director of the PETG prints rough parts. PETG likes to string, so you're probably going to have to try tuning out as much as you can that stringing, because I'm assuming by what you mean rough, you might have little like zits and stuff on there, and that could be from head travels. PETG is a difficult material to tune compared to PLA or ABS. Let me see. Are there any quick questions in here? Sean Youth, do you use Z-Hop to avoid collisions? I used to. I don't anymore, to be completely honest. But you can do that as well. Juan, I know you were also having issues with your CR10 with the heat going all crazy. It sounds like your board or your power supply or both might be on their way out. That's none of those things you're describing are issues with the firmware. That's going to be something on your actual machine. But you said earlier that you were having, your temps were going all over the place, your screen was getting garbled. That tells me there's something wrong with that machine. If that was a printer here, I'd be taking a look at the power supply, making sure that my output's clean, making sure all my wires are connected correctly, that nothing's contacting where it shouldn't be, that I don't have any loose connections. And then finally, if it still doesn't do it, I'd end up replacing the board to see what's going on with that. And unfortunately, that, like I said, I have to get off here. Thank you, Taran, for the $2 chip. Can you eat cheese on stream? I don't have any cheese, but cheese is delicious. But like I said, I have to get off like right now. So I do want to make an announcement though. Let me make sure the URL is working. Because you guys are only going to have 10 minutes to enter in your responses. So what we're going to start doing is I'm going to try to find something to give away every month, and the only way to enter the giveaway is to enter while we're doing the stream. So if you're watching this on a replay, sorry, but you can only get in during the stream. So, and what I'm going to be giving away is this brand new, and I have opened it to make sure it is all good. Brand new Ender 3 V2. And there, let's see. Woo! Brand new. Still in the box. So if you go to giveaway.th3dstudio.com and fill out the form, you will be entered in, and then we will do a drawing at the end of the month to see who wins it. And for this one, we will do this as US only. If you are international, instead of the printer, you can get a $100 gift card to the shop. So I do not want to ship a printer internationally. I physically have this one here, as you guys can see. So you literally get this one. I actually got a deal on this from one of my suppliers, and it could have been used. Sometimes when I get like the return printers, sometimes they're used, other times they're new because someone looked in the box and said, "Yeah, I'm not building this," and sent it back. So that's what this is. Someone bought this, was like, "I don't want to build this," and just literally boxed it back up and returned it. So, but this is brand new in the box. I'm gonna go ahead. It should be. It's giveaway.th3dstudio.com. Right there. So, I was going to do something with it, but you know what? I was like, I'm going to give it away because it's brand new. I don't want to give away a used machine, but this thing's brand new, so might as well do a giveaway. So I'm going to give you guys the next couple minutes here. I'm going to go back and see if there's any other questions I can answer really quick. And then I am going to disable the link until the next stream. So you're only going to be able to enter in this now. And the next stream, I will make the announcement at the beginning of the stream and post the link. But I wanted to kind of do a little bit of an unveiling here. So, and I'm going to try to find something to do a giveaway where we collect all the entries over the streams in the month. And then at the end of the month, we will give it away. So that link should work. It should take you to a Microsoft form is what we use. So, and there is one question. I'm also going to be using this to collect information. Like on this form, we have a question like, what kind of products, there's a parenthesis, would you like to see us carry in the future? So this will also give us a way to get feedback from you guys too and enter you in to win something. So, but yeah, I'm trying to see, is there anything else before I wrap this up here? And like I said, here's the URL. And like I said, I'm gonna kill this. I'm gonna kill the form, and not let any more entries happen until the next stream. So, yeah. If you guys, I will filter the form. So if you enter more than once, I will remove your duplicate entries. So please don't make more work for me. All right. So that is about it. Like I said, I'm going to give it a couple more minutes here, and then the form will light back up when we start the next stream on Wednesday. So let's see here. What else? Let's see what other questions we have. Lewis, what's the best 3D printer for around 150 bucks? Up your budget by $50 and get an Ender 3. Just save your money. I mean, the closest thing would probably be like maybe the Anycubic Mega 0 V1 without the heated bed, or like a King Rune. But I would personally recommend, if this is going to be your first machine, bump your budget up by like 50 bucks, save your money for a little bit, and go with an Ender 3. I love the Ender 3s. They're very solid printers for, what's it called? They're very solid printers for the money. Chris Rose says he's got a Tronxy X5SA-2E. Man, they are just piling on the letters and numbers after that. Try and change the firmware to Marlin, but unsure about the touchscreen type. Yeah, you're probably not going to be able to use that touchscreen. Not without a ton of work. As far as I know, I think Tronxy was using their proprietary touchscreens. Honestly, man, just change the board and the screen. Just dump it. Make it a custom machine. Dump their boards and their screens are garbage. Like, I would rather see you use a big TreeTech board than the stock board on that. God, Claire, you were shedding. Arfled, do you recommend replacing the XT60 on the Ender 3 printer? So, I do, but supposedly Creality has fixed the issues with them. So, my recommendation would be keep an eye on them. And if you see any charring or burning, then replace them. And we just replace it with the cable sets that we have. But you could replace it if you want, but not something I recommend doing unless you see issues with it. So, but if you have a recent one, they supposedly fixed the issue with those. Here we go. I was trying to find the link here. So, but all right, here's what I'm gonna do. I just realized I can just keep the form up at 3:10 Central Time. The form will go dark again, and then it will go live again once we have a what's it called? Once we have the next stream going. So yeah, okay. So that's a good idea. Aluminum says, "Would you send the product to someone in the U.S. on behalf of me if I'm not in the U.S.?" Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So if you're international, you want the printer, and you have someone here that doesn't mind shipping a printer to you. I just don't want to deal with shipping a printer internationally. Especially as a business, there's like different stuff we have to declare. Whereas if you have an individual send it to you, it's way less complicated. Just know it might it might not get there in one piece. Like I know this will get to somebody. I'm gonna wrap the crap out of it with tape. But this came to me just like this, and it's packed really well. But yeah, if you're international, and you win the printer, just give us a U.S. address if you win. So I have no problem doing that. So if you wanna find something for somebody to reship it to you, then that's fine. I don't care. As long as it goes to a U.S. address. Shipping printers is just such a pain. We've sold a couple machines that were like clearanced out, and we restricted it U.S. only because shipping printers is just such a pain. Because them getting damaged and stuff is the main thing. So, anyways, also if you guys do win the printer and you want some upgrades to go along with it, like if you want to change the LCD out, like we did on our Ender 3, so you don't have to use that limited color one. Just let me know if you want any additional upgrades with it, and I'll give you discounts off those upgrades too if you win. So, anyways, I'm going to wrap this up because I do have to get going. The form will be live for another minute or two here, and then it'll go offline, and it will be live again to the next, it'll be live again for the next stream. So, again, to enter in, you go to giveaway.th3studio.com. I'm just typing that again there. That should be it. Giveaway. Is that it? Yep. That's just a redirect. I love using subdomains and redirect. So anyways, I'll leave this up for a couple more minutes. I have to get going. I'd love to sit here and honestly hang out with you guys and answer more questions, but I've got an appointment at 4 o'clock that I have to get to. So appreciate everybody that stopped by. Hope you guys learned something. And as always, happy printing.